think about giving back. I think about what I do needs to serve myself and other people. I must be of service. Whatever it is that I'm working towards needs to be something that I feel serves myself and other people.
Applause for applause, Mr. Tom Bilyeu. Here we go! Let's
If you know that no matter how big a meal is, no matter how much you love it, you will never eat a meal so satisfying that you never need to eat another meal again. You will never drink a glass of water so thirst-quenching that you're never thirsty again. You'll never have sex so good that you never think about sex again. It just doesn't work like that. Hunger is hunger for a reason. It's gonna propel you forward. No matter how much money you make, no matter how big your company gets, no matter what size exit you have, no matter how big your jet, no matter how big your yacht, the only thing that will matter is the climb. And so when you climb that mountain, whatever it is, real estate, your family, whatever, you're gonna get to the peak and you're gonna wonder what's next. And if you just know that that's the truth, then you won't make the mistake of thinking, when I sell, I'm gonna feel good. All you have is today. All that matters is how you feel about yourself when you're by yourself. And the way you feel about yourself when you're by yourself has a lot to do with how hard you work and how much you contribute to other people. And if you're doing those two things, you're gonna be fine. And if you're not, no matter how much you make, you'll be unhappy. And so I learned that, thankfully, very early on. And I promised myself I would never chase money again. Irony of ironies, I made more money once I stopped chasing it than ever before. But just understanding that I would always be hungry for more.
Does that sound familiar? It's kind of what I talked about a little bit ago, after the recession. And so I love that because I was explaining that to the crowd earlier, and I dealt with that feeling stagnant back in 2018, and I didn't really, 2016, I really started feeling it. So I love that. Now, you have impact theory, and tell us a little bit about impact theory, because I don't know if I know there's a lot of people in here that know about impact theory.
Well, thank you.
Nice. Your move with impact theory is what really gravitated myself in interest to what you're doing, because it just, with where we are in our lives, it just makes so much sense. And I always tell my wife, we got to do more to give back. And we never do enough. We never do enough to give back. And I always feel like that. And she goes, we never give back enough. And I go, I know, we never give back enough. Why impact theory? And tell us a little bit about what, after you exited Quest, why impact theory and what that means to you.
It's interesting. So I'm either gonna turn a bunch of people off with this, or you're gonna come over to my side. I don't think about giving back. I think about what I do needs to serve myself and other people. And that there is a program running in my brain, given to me by nature or God, however you wanna think about it, that I must be of service. And because I know that, whatever it is that I'm working towards needs to be something that I feel serves myself and other people. So impact theory was an experiment. So it's literally called impact theory for a reason. It is my theory on how to impact people at scale. And I'll give it to you in a real nutshell. If there's anything you want to drill in, we can. But I started big brothering for a kid in South Central Los Angeles. It was supposed to be an 8-week program. It ended up being 8 years. And in that, I realized, whoa, this kid's really sharp, but he's being eaten alive by where he grew up. And because I'd grown up somewhere different, it was really stark to me to see what his life was like. Flash forward 15 years later, I now have 1,000 employees that remind me of him. Growing up in the inner cities, Compton, Watts, like the worst stuff you can imagine. It's just crazy. And I realized, and this is true, in the Western world, the number one predictor of your future success is your zip code. It's not your IQ. Already it would freak me out if it was IQ, right? Because that sucks, because it's just the hand that you're dealt. But at least I could be like, okay, that makes some sense. It's gonna have a huge impact on what you can contribute. But your zip code, I was just really, and I often ask people, what was the last time you were offended? It tells a lot about a person. I'm offended by the fact that your zip code is the number one predictor of your future success. So I'm like, okay, word. I have 1,000 employees that have grown up hard. I started what I called Quest University. Long story, because I believe that people can change, I said, hey, even if you have a felony conviction, I'll consider you for employment. You still have to be a badass, but I'll consider you for employment. So we had people lined up around the building just to interview. We had gang members, Bloods and Crips working the same line, people with teardrop tattoos, drug dealers that were supposed to be former drug dealers, long story. Anyway, so I'm working with all these guys and I'm like, damn, like some of these guys are really smart. I will tell you right now, a drug dealer is an extraordinary entrepreneur, because imagine this, here I am, word. So I'm selling protein bars and I'm like, this shit is hard. But never once did somebody show up at the front door with a shotgun, kick my door in and try to steal my protein powder. Thankfully. But they would with these guys. And I was like, Jesus, man, like how do you deal with that stress? That's really insane. And so as I'm talking to them, I'm like, these guys are really sharp. They are really sharp, but they don't understand that what they're selling isn't drugs, it's risk. And so I was like, wait, I can understand that what they're really saying, their product is risk. And they're willing to do that. Other people aren't. And that's why there's big margin, because so many people are just like, I'm not going to mess with that. So I'm like, okay, this is a frame of reference problem. Now, if you learn anything from what I say today, just remember this. Frame of reference determines your entire life. Your entire life is determined by your frame of reference. Literally, mic drop, walk away. Frame of reference is all that matters. Okay, we're going to get to my frame of reference, and I will answer your question, I promise. This is all, you have to understand this for it to make sense. Okay, so I start Quest University, all these drug dealers, gang members, all this. I will teach you anything you want to know. I will come in early, I will stay late. I didn't have kids, still don't. So I was like, for real, for real. I would be there early, I would stay late. I said, I will teach you how to build a competitive nutrition company. 3 people did it, money where my mouth is. But only 2% of the people that I sat there and told these ideas over and over and over did anything with them. Now those 2%, it changed their life forever and the lives of their family. Sad story, but true. About 2 months ago, one of the 2% died in a car accident. Just breaks my heart to even think about it. His daughter came up to me. She went from failing out of middle school to graduating valedictorian of her class. She comes up to me at her father's funeral and says, I just have to express gratitude to your face. You changed my father's life and he changed our lives because of what you showed him. It's amazing. Now remember, it has nothing to do with me. These ideas are old as time. They are as old as time. Now, I start thinking, why do 98% of the people that encounter these ideas do nothing with them? And so I was really bothered by that. And so I started thinking about it. What is it about the human mind? Now, if you haven't heard this idea before, burn this into your memory. Humans are meaning-making machines. Frame of reference. Your frame of reference determines the meaning that you make out of the things that happen. The meaning that you determine from the things that happen will determine how you act, and how you act controls your life. So I'm going, okay, these people have the wrong frame of reference. How do I give them the right frame of reference? I've tried giving it to them by telling them, think like this, act like this. They wouldn't do it. So I got very honest about the fact that they're all having a biological experience. And the reality is, while you can change at any age, you are most malleable in what we in the West call the age of imprinting, what the Japanese call shonen, which translates as the few years. Now, what are those few years? If we have parents in the house, I'm betting you can guess, it's 11 to 15. It is that age where the kid starts to look at you sideways, they start spending more time on TikTok than they do at the dinner table, they start to distance themselves from you. They have to. This is part of the natural process. They will drink deeply from culture at that moment. This is why humans are the most dominant apex predator the world has ever seen. We are not faster, we don't have sharper claws, but damn, culture stacks. Meaning that you don't have to relearn how to work with metal like they learned 700 years ago, right? You just take that for granted. And now you're working with alloys that they couldn't have imagined back in the day, right? So all of this knowledge stacks and it moves forward. It's absolutely incredible. So now, the reason that we do impact theory is I realize I have to tell stories because I have to bypass the logical centers of your brain. I have to get to the emotional part of your brain, and I need to do it during the age of imprinting, which is 11 to 15. Now, if you know what I know, and you know it's all about that next hill to climb, that I have to do something that is of service, given my particular passions and the things that I'm good at, I was like, yo, I'm gonna tell stories like people never heard stories before, because Yoda led me to Taoism, and Taoism changed my life. If you've ever read the Tao Te Ching, that shit literally sounds like Yoda. It's crazy. But it was absolutely transformational because it gave me a growth mindset. And so this impact theory is my way of giving people a growth mindset at scale through story.
Bro, I love that. Love that. So I'm going to be selfish and ask you for your recommendation. I know that there's a lot of people that are relying on me this next year for me to help make an impact on their lives that are in this audience right here, right now. And as just a selfish piece of advice from you to me to impact these people, we all have our own ways. And respecting what you've been able to do with impact theory, I love your professional observations, opinion of what I can do to impact the lives of these people over the next year.
There's really only one way. He's got to give you things that actually work, right? So your job is to be the person that is in this with them, that knows what they're going through, that's feet on the street, that really knows what they're going to need to do in order to succeed in the way that they want to succeed. Because at the end of the day, if somebody does the right things, even if they have the wrong mindset, they will win. And if they have the right mindset and they do the wrong things, they will lose. This ultimately, as much as I hate to say it, it comes down to tactics. And so, irony of ironies, I only ever thought I would ever talk about business. But people always ask me about mindset questions because if you don't get the mindset right, you'll never be able to do the tactics. So you're gonna have to help them bridge that gap. Most of them are gonna break emotionally. I will just tell you this right now. Sneak it out of the corner of your eye so they don't get embarrassed, but look to your left and to your right. They're all going to quit. You're the only one that's gonna see this through. Isn't that crazy? Everybody else in this room is going to give up. You wanna know how I got here? I realized a couple very simple things about myself. I could self-soothe. So when I got kicked in the face, when I failed, I didn't need somebody else to come and tell me things were gonna be okay. I could soothe myself and I could reorient very quickly. Number two, I realized that I needed to have high self-esteem. I am a raging egomaniac. It's uncomfortable. But the thing that I build my self-esteem around is being the learner. In any one moment, I usually look pretty stupid. But what I know is that every time I fail, I have an opportunity to learn and get better. So I'm gonna learn that thing. You're laughing at me the whole time I'm doing it, but I'm gonna learn that thing. And I know the secret about the people sitting to your left and right. They're all gonna quit because they can't self-soothe, because they build their self-esteem around being right, being smart, being faster, being better. So they're all gonna break when they encounter somebody that's better than them. But I won't, because I'll self-soothe. And I know that, I may look stupid in this moment, but I'm gonna learn from this failure and I'm gonna get better. They're gonna quit, and so I'm just gonna keep growing. Guys, that's so true, it should make you really uncomfortable. And if you haven't already seen that play out in your life, where you see people smarter than you and they just don't succeed, it's because they break emotionally. Everybody has to feel good about themselves, and we all have this thing. Remember, you're having a biological experience. We all have this thing in our brains called the psychological immune system. The psychological immune system's job is very simple: keep you from committing suicide. That's it. That's its job. Now, if it has to say that all of your friends are morons, that the guy up on the stage is an idiot and doesn't know what he's talking about, it will convince you that that is true to make sure that you don't feel badly about yourself. But it does not give a shit that I've made more money. It doesn't care that I'm more successful. It doesn't care that my ideas are better. All it cares is that you feel good about yourself. So be very careful, because I've trained my psychological immune system to reward me for one thing and one thing only, and that is learning. And because the only thing I reward myself for is learning, I actually get better. And because, again, you don't have to have the right mindset, you just have to do the right things. Now, the problem is you won't do the right things unless you have the right mindset, but don't ever lose sight of the fact that what this man owes you are tactics. He's got to help you do the thing better, which means he better be like me. He better be learning all the time, because let me tell you, the second I walk out of here, boom, headphones in my ears, and I'm reading something that matters. Nonstop, all the time, round the clock. That's it. I sacrifice things left, right, and center to get what I want out of life, and that's it. So be careful who you take advice from. Because if you want to be a good parent, don't take advice from me. I don't have kids. Fuck that. I was like, I'm not getting up in the middle of the night. You must be joking. I've seen the tantrums that kids throw. I threw those tantrums. So I'm not the guy. But if you want to get your mind right, if you want to win in business, I'm your man.
Jacob, Jada, if there was nothing else that you heard in this entire weekend, I hope that you just paid attention for the last 5 to 7 minutes of Tom. I'm talking to my son and my daughter right now. They're back there someplace. I can't see them because of the lights. But if there is nothing else that you listened to at all this weekend, that was probably one of the most important things that was said on this stage. Because I've told my kids that exact same thing in a different format redundantly. And the only reason that I'm up here right now, being able to put this event on for you guys, and I've been able to do what I've been able to do, is because I've said, if you stop caring what people think, and if you had a wall in front of you, and your failures didn't matter, nobody saw them, nobody ever saw your failures, would you try more? Would you do more? You know, and I think so many of us quit before the finish line. I took my son out one time. He was having some problems with gymnastics, and I told him, "You ready to win now?" And he said, "Yes." And I took him out to a park, and there was pine trees on the side, and I said, "Okay, I'm gonna teach you how to win." And I made him sprint. I said, "Sprint to the finish line." And he would slow down before he got to the finish line, which was one of the first tree. And I go, "No, you sprint to the second tree. Because if you sprint to the first tree, you slow down before the finish line, you lose." And so I kept doing this. We went like 30 runs. He was dead tired. I had to do this with him one time. And I told him every time that he wanted to quit or give up, I'd tell my son, I'd say, "Do you remember when we went to the park? And I made you run past those trees?" I said, "You're not done running. You run past that tree. Everybody else quits before they get to the finish line. You can't do that. You gotta run past that tree. You gotta run past the finish line. You don't slow down until you pass the finish line." And I think that's a little bit of what you're saying.
That is a hugely important lesson, but if I can speak directly to your kids, I'm gonna tell you, God, I wish I knew where they were so I could really look them in their beady little eyes. All right, I'm gonna tell you what your dad doesn't wanna tell you, but you already know is true. It matters what other people think about you, and it's gonna hurt forever. Your entire life when somebody thinks that you're stupid. All of us, we are both the shout and the echo. You are what you do and how people feel about what you do. There's no escaping it. So the key is, how do you build an identity that's resilient when other people think that you're crazy? Because you don't want to flat ignore them, because they might be right. You really might be crazy. And if you identify as the learner, then you'll take that in. Like, remember, if people want to hurt my feelings, they're going to tell me that I have big ears. Why are they going to say that? Because my ears are big. People will tell you the most real shit when they want to hurt you. So don't ignore the naysayers. Listen, because the odds are that they're pointing out something. This is why you have to be able to self-soothe. But if you think that there's a way to magically, truly detach yourself from what other people think, that's called a sociopath, okay? You don't want to aim for being a sociopath. But you don't want to be a slave to what other people think either, and that's where most people live their lives. Both ends of those extremes will waste your time. But if you're honest about the human experience, it's the same reason that people will chase money. No matter how many times I tell myself that money can't change how I feel about myself, I keep chasing money. So the question becomes, why? Because money's powerful. Now, if I acknowledge what money can do well, I can keep it in its right place. Money is the great facilitator. So if there are things that I need to facilitate, I need money. Now, if I think that money's gonna make me feel better about myself, I'm in for a world of hurt. But once you understand the true nature of things, you'll be able to make progress. So the nature of things of being a kid is that when your friends think you're a loser, it really sucks. And your job isn't to pretend it doesn't suck. Your job is to remind yourself, my goal in life is to get better at something that I care deeply about that serves myself and others. And as long as I'm on that path, if people keep telling me I'm an idiot, I'm gonna listen. Maybe there's something in there. I'm gonna learn from what there is that's good, and I'm gonna ignore the rest because I know they're all gonna quit anyway.
All right, bro, one more question here, and then I'm gonna open up for Q&A for you guys.
Let's do it.
So, you have a real fun relationship with your wife on camera, right? But I know real life. Like I've been with my wife for over 20 years. We've been married for 16 years, and I'll tell you, there's no life that's perfect, right? So you guys have a real fun-filled life. My wife and I have a really good relationship as well, but we, like everybody, are human, right? There's emotions that run through our home, and I think the people that impact all of these folks' lives in here are the ones that they sleep next to. And I think it's really important, and I want your perspective on this, because I know that your marriage is not perfect, but you talked about something the other day when we were in Orange County together that that really brought light and I really loved. And I'd like for you to share that with these folks in regards to like your relationship, and give them a little insight on how important having a spouse or somebody next to you that supports what you're doing is, and how that plays in your life, a role of your success and what you guys have been able to do together.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I'm obsessed with this idea that's becoming, I think, really misunderstood in culture, and it is leading us towards a precipice. There is a reason that political parties are often broken into two parties, a left and a right. It's sort of irrelevant what they are, but the reason that happens is the kite and the string. So to use the left and the right as an example, the way that traditionally breaks down is the left is coming from a place of empathy and the right is coming from a place of personal responsibility. And that's good. You need both. And so if you think about tribes, when we would band together to stay alive and not get eaten, not get killed, not die from exposure, that kind of thing, we needed the help of other people. In fact, if you guys know, Yuval Noah Harari says that the reason that humans have become so successful is because we're the only species that can interact or cooperate in large groups flexibly. Ants can do it in large groups, but not flexibly, okay? It's just one thing, that's it. They build ant colonies, period, end of story. Humans can do everything from, space travel to building shelters and schools and, everything in between. So if we have this group, we need different personality types in order to thrive. So you want people that are really looking out for other people. But if you look at social studies enough, you quickly realize that there is what they call the freeloader problem. So if all you do is make sure nobody's left behind, there are some people that will take advantage of that. So you have to balance the system over on the other side where they want to make sure everybody's taking personal responsibility. Now here's the key. Either one of those becomes tyranny. The right becomes tyrannical, the left becomes tyrannical. What you need is the tension between the two. The moment you lose respect for the tension, you have a problem. So you have to want the disagreement. You have to seek disconfirming evidence. So when it comes to marriage, as in building a business, as in building a society, boys and girls, please look for people that share your values, but don't think like you. You need people that share your values, or you will have a collision of values, which we can get into, but it's a very complex topic. But you want to share, call it 70 to 80% of your values, but you don't want people that think the same. In business, they say if there are two partners and you both think alike, one of you is unnecessary. So in your marriage, I have found that you thrive when you guys share a lot of values, but you're good at different things. Now you have the kite and the string. If you have a kite with no string, the wind takes it wherever it wants, it crashes. If you have a string with no kite, it lays on the floor. You have a string and a kite, and now you have flight. But you have to respect that tension. You have to want the tension. But there has to be that respect for it. And so in a marriage, yeah, of course, there's gonna be tension. You're gonna see things differently. It's gonna be a push-pull. You're gonna think differently about the kids and how they should be raised and all of that. Now, if you have a set of core values that you share, you can always retreat back to those, ask what's most likely to lead to that, and then remember, it's probably good that my significant other sees things slightly differently than I do. Respect that tension. Find people where you can have that healthy tension and you will thrive. Again, whether it's business, marriage, or just society in general.
Powerful. I love that. Thanks for sharing that again.
My pleasure.
Love that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is your chance to come up and ask Tom, Mr. Impact Theory himself, some questions. Do we have some microphones down there? Do we got a couple runners? Okay, cool.
We're ready.
There it is.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Tom.
Hello.
Thank you so much. So I'm Jen Gottlieb. I'm speaking here tomorrow, and I'm talking about visibility and building a brand. And I have to tell you that I'm so unbelievably grateful that one day you decided to be visible and build a brand. But because of that, you've created a podcast and a platform that's helped everybody here, including myself, so much. So thank you.
Thank you. That's very kind.
And my question for you is, what's one tip that you can give everybody here about building a powerful personal brand and building audience? Because you've done an amazing job at that.
Thank you. So you need to be good at something. This goes back to the idea of tactics. So you're gonna practice, you're gonna rehearse, you're gonna push yourself, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, you need to be better at something than other people. This is the hard part. This is where I always won. Goes back to nobody left behind, personal responsibility. So I'm the personal responsibility guy. So at the end of the day, you can't just be pretty, look good in front of the camera. You've got to actually offer something of value. And so you're gonna have to go get good at that thing. I could not be more grateful that I spent 15 years building businesses before I ever stepped in front of a camera. It never even occurred to me that one day I might step in front of the camera. That just wasn't a thing. I just had to build a business that worked, that people cared about, where I made something that people would rather have that thing than their money. That's pretty incredible. We work so hard to get our money, and yet you can create something that people find so valuable, they would rather have that thing than their money. And so that was my life, putting my head down doing that. And as you're building, you're constantly realizing I'm not good enough. And so you're working and figuring things out and learning and getting kicked and getting better. And then I stepped in front of a camera. And this is why my whole magic trick is put me out on a stage, not having any idea what people are gonna ask me, and just ask. If I don't know, I'll just tell you I don't know. But if I've been kicked in the face and had to learn that thing the hard way, I can be able to offer something useful because I've been doing it for so long. So whatever it is, if you want to build a personal brand, build it around that thing that you either are good at or are going to get good at. And then just pour yourself into it. You have got to give yourself over. Like really want to be the greatest in the world. The odds of you actually becoming the greatest in the world are virtually zero. Fine, I get it. But still, man, showing up every day and playing like that is the joy of a lifetime. Even if I fail, right? I'm trying to build the next Disney. I went on camera, I did this whole video. It was me calling my shot like Babe Ruth. Like 3 or 4 years ago, I went on camera, I said, I'm gonna build the next Disney. Here's what it's gonna be. I laid that whole thing out, which by the way, I fucking executed against. It's so impressive. But I'm so far away from my ultimate goal that it's terrifying. And if I fail, I will fail very publicly. But man, going after it, like really showing up every day and playing to win. If you do that and put it on camera and you're actually getting better, people will flock to you. And if they're not flocking to you, know this. Console yourself with the following statement. On those cold winter nights where you feel like a loser, you just aren't good enough yet. Now it's up to you whether you go get good enough or not. But there's no mystery. The algorithm isn't against you. You're just not good enough yet. That's the most freeing realization ever because it makes clear what you need to do. Go get better. That's it. That is so freeing, and business is the one sport where you never have to worry about your body letting go. Okay, Stephen Hawking could like blink an eye and breathe into a tube, and that guy was literally shaping physics until the day he died. So you're in an extraordinary position where you've chosen to be an athlete in a game where as long as you keep your mind sharp, you can play this forever. And so this information is just gonna keep stacking and stacking and stacking. So be honest, admit you're just not good enough yet, and then go get good. Put in a Kobe Bryant level, inhuman amount of performance. And remember this, my favorite quote in the world is from Kobe Bryant. Boos don't block dunks. You can get so good at something that even though people were paid millions of dollars to stop Kobe Bryant from scoring, he scored 81 points in a single game. You can get that good at your chosen field. And if you get that good, your personal brand will be the easiest thing in the world to build.
thing work? All right, cool. What's up, guys? My name's Robert Eisenstadt. I traveled all the way here from Las Vegas, Nevada. So I have a very firm belief that everything in my life happens for a reason. And the problem that I see is a lot of people see happiness as a destination instead of an emotion. So my question for you is, what is the hardest thing that you've gone through in your life, whether it be business or personal, and what were you able to do to overcome those struggles?
I think the hardest thing any of us are going to do in life is lose somebody that we love. So for sure, that is the most difficult. Now in business, I'm excited that you're asking me this question now. 2022 has been the most grueling year of my business life. And so what ended up happening was I took on too many projects at once and just absolutely refused not to see them all through. And so I worked 120 hours a week on average for 8 months. And that's terrible for your marriage. Let's start there. It's terrible for your stress. It just was absolutely not wise. And what I did to get to the other side of that was constantly every day ask myself, what is the lead domino? What is the problem that I can solve right now today that will make things better? And then you literally, I mean, it's cheesy, but how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? So this is, here, I'm gonna give you guys a gift. From this moment forward, I want you all to make a promise to yourself. You don't do overwhelm. Period. End of story. You don't do overwhelm. Never again. I don't care what's going on in your life. Your spouse just died. Your business is imploding. You're starting to feel overwhelmed. You're gonna say one thing and one thing only to yourself. I don't do overwhelm. Now the reason you're gonna say that is not because you have infinitely strong shoulders. That's not what I'm asking. Overwhelm is a psychological state that you're allowing yourself to get into. You have to do what's called pattern interrupt. If you haven't read Feeling Great by David D. Burns, read it immediately. It talks about something called cognitive behavioral therapy. Getting back to tactics. There are things that you can do to stop your mind from running away with you. So the thing that I did this year was I didn't quit. I didn't give up. I refused to let myself be overwhelmed. And so even though I had a whole lot of reasons to get overwhelmed, every time I could, you know that feeling. Your brain feels like it's speeding up. It feels like you're stopped and someone's stomping on the gas and your brain is just revving at 1,000 miles an hour and it's just so aware of everything that's happening. And then it's all happening all at once and there's no way to get it all done. There's no way to get it all done today, that's for sure. So one, I would say to myself, I don't do overwhelm. Word. I would remind myself, doing less is always an option. Word again. Another one, I'm hardcore. And I would find my Goggins gear. If you don't know who Goggins is, look him up. If you don't yet have a Goggins gear, get one. And you're gonna shift into Goggins gear. And then you're gonna remember, oh yeah, this isn't just mindset, this is actions. So now, I'm gonna keep an important things list that are in order. What is the most important thing I could do right now? At all times in your life, you need to know exactly what the most optimal use of the next 15 minutes is. If you don't know, you lack clarity. Plain and simple, that's it. Nothing else matters. You don't have enough clarity. So I would get a hyper amount of clarity. I would refuse to let myself get overwhelmed. I was perfectly fine looking like an idiot for a year. I was gonna learn from all of this. I was gonna lead domino everything, take things one step at a time, make sure I got as much sleep as I could, remember to love and hug my wife, meditate, eat right, work out. Like you just break this stuff into really basic things and you just do it. The answer, when things are really going bad, the answer is not something complicated. It's blocking and tackling. Block and tackle. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed. Don't worry about looking like an idiot. Remember that you value yourself for being a learner, not for being cool. So, and then you just keep going. And then if it's the loss of a loved one, grieve. Grieve. Some things just take time.
Word.
Hey, Tom, quick question, and then I think this gentleman
Yes.
here is next. My name's Steve Novotny. Thanks for being here. It's good to hear about learning. which is the basis of everything that we're doing. My question to you is, how has mentors or instructors affected your life personally? And what would be your advice for lots of people here just trying to figure out the mousetrap? You've given us a lot of good stuff, but as it comes to finding the person that you can maybe help emulate or follow or mentoring, what would be one or two strategies that you've used to find that sage or that person that kind of helped you get it to the next base?
Yeah, this is huge. So I am insatiable when it comes to learning. So the vast majority of my mentors have all been authors, just people, I read their books, I read constantly. I guarantee you, I've got to be in the top 0.001% of all Audible readers, and I mean that literally, I don't mean that figuratively. If you put my stats against anybody, there's just no way. There's only so many hours in a day to read. So constantly learning. YouTube is a modern miracle. If you're not on YouTube, get on YouTube immediately. If you have algorithm control, be on TikTok as well. If you don't have algorithm control, stay away from it. I like to tell people TikTok is, you are selling your soul to the Chinese government, but they pay a fair price. So there's a lot of amazing stuff on TikTok, but you have to know how to whittle the algorithm down so it's not giving you time wasting stuff. It's giving you like incredible information. There's so much amazing information. Okay, then on top of that, here's the thing that keeps me going. I know that right now, what stands between me and my goals is knowledge and execution. I'm gonna have to do the execution, but the knowledge, there's somebody in this room that knows something that all of us wish we knew. So what I have found is I always tell people what I'm doing. Because when people know what you're up to, they'll be like, oh, my cousin happens to do XYZ. I'll give you a real story. When we launched the comic book division, remember, I'm going from protein bars to comic books. People are like, what? So I didn't know anybody in comic books, but I was just like, anybody. I'd be like, yo, I'm doing comic books, man. Comic books. And then people, finally, one guy was like, oh, yo, I know this guy that used to be the chief editor at Marvel Comics. Would that be useful? Yes, that would very much be useful. That introduction leads to them actually writing one of the comics, leads to another introduction to the guy that used to run DC Comics. Here's one of my favorite things. The guy lives in Miami. You don't want to freak him out. So I'm like, hey, bro, I'm going to be in Miami tomorrow. Are you going to be there? Yeah, I am. Amazing. I had no intention of being in Miami. But if that's going to get me a lunch with this guy, then I'm going to fly to Miami. But you've got to be that psychotic about getting the information that you want. But here, this is one I want to, like, if I were Kurt Cobain, I'd be like flipping the speakers over right now to get your attention. Hear me when I say, skills have utility. You don't read a book so that you can check a list. You don't read a book to impress your parents. You don't spout a quote to get laid. You learn something because it lets you do something other people can't do. Okay? If you know more about real estate and deal structure and deal flow, then you're gonna win because you know something other people don't know. This is that one where I expect like the roof to open and a beam of light to come down from God every time I say skills have utility. Wow, if you let that sink into your soul, you will go after skill set harder than you go after anything because it will let you do stuff. I always think about bridges. Yo, you can unite two land masses and drive cars over it because you understand architecture. That's insane. Because a patent clerk could imagine a beam of light and how it would travel, GPS works. Okay? Skills have utility. Go and get them ferociously.
Tom, so pleasure to meet you. I'm Ernesto, originally born and raised from New York. I now live in Texas with my family, so I'm looking forward to that Dallas project, Jerome. But I've been understanding a lot more recently the importance of investing into yourself. So if you could be kind enough to share maybe the top 5 or the top 10 books that you would recommend. And number 2, maybe the top 2 events per year. wherever they are.
What if I
that
gave
recommend.
you the top 32 books in order of importance? All right.
That would be better.
I get asked this question so often. I actually put it on my website, so you can find it for free. If you search my name, Tom Bilyeu reading list, I'll give you a few that I can rattle off in order. The first one is Mindset. In fact, somebody mentioned it to me backstage. So Mindset is the most important book in the English language. Like, it is just unbelievable. It is the thing that will lay the foundation for your frame of reference. As we talked about frame of reference earlier, frame of reference will determine your entire life. Your entire life. Your marriage is going to be defined by your frame of reference. How rapidly you learn, your frame of reference. How well you can self-soothe, frame of reference. How quickly you acquire skills, frame of reference. All of it. Mindset by Carol Dweck. Read it. Read Grit by Duckworth, Angela Duckworth. Read Leadership by Jocko Willink. Read, oh God, what was the first one that he wrote? Can't believe I'm... Extreme Ownership. Thank you. Yes. That book is absolutely amazing. You Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, another absolute killer. Again, I have these and more on my list in order. They will change your life. If you read those 32 books, and you can read them in any order, but I put them in the order where the ideas will stack. It really will. They will change your life. You will be a fundamentally different person at the end of those books than you would at the beginning, for sure.
Awesome.
I can't hear you without the mic.
Hi, Tom.
Let's get this young lady a microphone as well. It's on the front over here. Next.
Tom, thank you for coming, and thank you what you're doing. I'm your fan, one of them. So question is, how do you keep your focus constantly on your learning?
Yeah, so focus is the thing that I struggle with the most. And so unfortunately for myself, it borders on pathology for me. And I know that this is my weakness. And so going back to my earlier point of know what you're good at and then find somebody that's different than you and work with them. So thankfully, my wife is the discipline. So most companies have big vision and the executor. Okay, if you've read the book Rocket Fuel, which is also on my list, Rocket Fuel talks about that tension, right, that we talked about. You have to respect that tension. So I come up with a lot of ideas that have made my companies millions and millions and millions of dollars. But if I didn't have my wife to act as the executor, to be disciplined, to make sure that she's asking the question, where does the rubber meet the road here, we'd really be in trouble. So I do try to constrain myself. I have rules in my life about focus, about how many goals I can be pursuing at any one time. I know the limits of the company and how much we can push through the system, but you'll also remember that I said 2022 is the most grueling year of my business life because I took on too many projects, which they were all amazing. All of them are amazing, and we're finally finishing them and getting them across the finish line, and it's incredible, and it's setting us up very well for the next 5 years. But oh dear God, they should have been spread out over 3 years. So if you have the natural discipline, just write it down and execute in order. If you don't have the natural discipline, you must get an operator in your company who you respect, that you're not just gonna roll over and follow it. And so it really comes down to just knowing the truth of the situation is, without execution, you have nothing. And execution requires focus. And by the way, did you guys know that Apple is now bigger than Google, Facebook, and maybe Netflix combined? It's 3 of the big 5. Apple by itself is bigger than those 3 combined. Now, I don't think it's a mistake that when Steve Jobs met with Larry Page, he said to Larry, your problem is you don't have enough product focus. And Larry Page chose to ignore that advice. Now, there's a lesson there. You can build Google. None of us would be crying if we built Google. But you get dwarfed by the guy who is laser focused.
Hey Tom, my name is Jodine, and I got up at 4 o'clock this morning in
I like your style.
19-degree weather, and my airplane had to get de-iced just to get here, so I think that's tough skin.
I would say so.
With that, I want to just say we've talked on stages before on Clubhouse, so it's good to meet you.
Ah, nice.
So I'm Jodine, most amazing MC, and then also the NFT godmother. So
that is amazing.
With that, if you don't have John Maxwell on your list, I hope you do have some of his books because
I do.
Yes.
You either win or you learn, if I'm not mistaken, is John Maxwell, and that is very much on the list.
Yeah, he's sold 24 million books, and leadership development is really where he's at. So I just wanted to make sure you had him on the list. I'm a John Maxwell trainer.
Nice.
But the question I wanted to ask you is, what do you see as your greatest threat towards your success?
For me, it really is discipline and focus. So that is my weakness for sure, 100%. Also, I am in a space where the technology is advancing so rapidly, you have to make bets years out and be right. And if you make bets years out and you're wrong, you can really be in trouble. And so making sure that you don't just have plan A, you have plan B, C, D, E, and F, to make sure that you have escape pods. If you realize something's not working, how do we leverage this? If that falls apart, what if this takes 3 times longer than we thought it was gonna take? What are we gonna do? And so there we have to be really, really thoughtful. And then hyper growth is a blessing and a curse. So Quest grew by 57,000% in 3 years. Impact Theory has grown by 42,000% in 5 years. I know the dangers that are inherent with that. And so we have to be very thoughtful with that kind of scale. But the thing that keeps me up at night is being incorrect about the future of entertainment. I think I have it. And this is a really fascinating thing. If you're a CEO, you have to intoxicate people with certainty. You have to do it. You have to have a vision. You have to be able to articulate it with massive conviction. Like, this is it, this is the way, this is where we're going. And then you have to question that every second of the day, to make sure that you don't buy into your own narrative. You need a narrative, you have to articulate the narrative, you have to move with conviction, but you also have to constantly be checking that, seeking disconfirming evidence. I've said that twice now, so I hope that one's sinking in. Most people don't want to do it. They want to hear what a winner they are. If people are always telling you what a winner you are on your way to destruction. If people are constantly telling you what you're doing wrong, where the mistake is, now you might have a shot, because truly only the paranoid survive. So that legitimately keeps me awake.
They did an NFT, and so I know their team out of India, so if you want to get connected with them.
Man, I'm always looking to meet more people in NFTs for sure.
They sold out in 48 seconds.
Damn. That's very impressive. Most people here are like, I don't know what an NFT is. You will. Actually, you won't. Here's the big revelation. I promise I'll keep it so short on NFTs. You're never going to know what NFTs are, but it's going to power everything that you do in the future. It's going to be crazy, mark my words. And if you care and get in it now when it's still confusing, people don't know what the hell, there's a big opportunity, but it's tricky. Be careful.
Yeah, so you guys have heard me talk about NFTs and what they're going to do in real estate over time. I always said the person who figures out how to utilize NFTs to utilize investments through real estate are going to make a killing. You know, so it's a utility substance I think is going to have some.
Just beware the SEC.
Yes.
Do not
SEC.
pretend like they don't exist, like most people are. That is a fool's errand.
Yep, definitely, most definitely, yes.
Hey Tom, Michael from Texas. My question, actually, to start off, thanks for coming.
My pleasure.
Your introductions on impact theory are legendary, man. Those are pretty awesome. But I was going to ask, in terms of whether it be health or business, what were the biggest things that you weren't expecting to learn through impact theory and all the people you've talked to?
In the beginning, I don't think that I fully understood how much the learning would stack over time. And so now, especially in health, man, I really know that stuff. And so you keep interviewing people. This goes back to focus. You keep interviewing people around similar topics, and you really, really start to learn. So that's been really transformational. And then the other part is I never thought that I would care about like culture with a big C. And I started to feel like a coward because there was things that I didn't want to talk about on camera. And then really started to realize that to honor that tension, I had to start speaking up. That was a surprise. That was something I never thought that, I didn't find it interesting, but I really think we're at it's often referred to as a Chinese curse, but certainly a Chinese proverb that says, may you live in interesting times. Now, when you think of that as a curse, I think you think of it in the right way. And right now, we're really living through some interesting times. And I think if we're not thoughtful, bad things will happen. And as they say, for great evil to rise, all it takes is for good people to stay silent. So that wasn't something that I saw coming. I just wanted to tell people about business. That's all I ever thought I was going to talk about. The great irony.
Hey, Tom. Thanks for coming. You've been impactful in my life, and I'm glad to see you in person.
Thank you, man.
How do you pick what your life ambition is, your gift to the world, if and when you've achieved what you need for yourself?
So, one, I love that you use the word pick. So here's the great myth around passion, meaning, purpose. People talk, you have to find your passion. You have to find meaning in your life. That's not how it works. It is not an archaeological dig. It's an architectural build. Believe that. Okay, if Steve Jobs were born 1,000 years ago, do you think that he would sit and play in the dirt designing an iPhone? No. He would have been into whatever was going on at that time with the way that he thought, and he would have approached something then at that moment, and that would have been the passion and the reason that he existed. So you are going to go play. As Kevin Kelly says, do not prematurely optimize. You're going to go play. You're going to discover the world, right? You want your kids to go, who knows what they're going to be into? Let them play. Let them have fun. Let them wander for a while. The whole point of that is the one part of this that's discovery. And that's you're going to find something that gives you more energy than it takes. That's all you're looking for. It's not going to present itself as, this is what you were meant to do. It's just going to be like, oh, that's cool. And that's why so many people are lost. There's a whole bunch of things in their life that are, oh yeah, that's cool. Oh yeah, I dig that. But it's not a passion. Why? Because passion is a process. Okay, I do not believe in love at first sight. And I know that's going to turn some people off, but just like you have to go through a process to fall in love, we call that process dating. You go on a process, you spend time, you get to know them, you begin to share things and bond, and that turns into love. The same is true of whatever you're going to do in life. So there's a process to passion. I can actually walk you through it. It goes like this. I'll give it to you in a nutshell. If you really care, someone can ask a follow-up question. You're going to find that thing, right, that gives you more energy than it takes. Then you're going to engage with it. If it continues to be fascinating to you, then you're going to keep going. So there's two types of people in the world. Those that when they see magic being done and they discover how it was done, they like it more. And those that when they discover how it was done, they like it less. That would be something that isn't fascinating the more that you engage with it. So you find something that's more fascinating as you engage with it. As you then develop that fascination into mastery by going through the hard process of getting good at something, if you continue to be excited about it, now it's going to let you contribute to the group and it will become a reciprocal love. So now, the better you get, let's say at playing guitar, the better you get at playing guitar, you can play a song and make somebody feel something. They're like, whoa, that's amazing. Hey, come play that song. I want my friends to hear it. That was really cool. You're obviously delivering value to them. Now that makes you want to do what? Go get better so that you can get that response from more people. And so now you're in this reciprocal loop. Now that you're building a passion out of it, if you really want it to last and you want to push through all the boredom, which kills more entrepreneurs than failure, if you want to push through the boredom, you need to assign meaning and purpose. Assign meaning and purpose, okay? I'm building the next Disney. What's my why? I want to do it to give a growth mindset to people at scale. The thing that I assigned to it was I remember that little kid that I big brothered for 8.5 years. I showed him that somebody loved him, but I failed him. He got eaten by his zip code. That really, for years, I told myself the story. I showed him that somebody loved him. And then when I realized, no, this is gonna be my why. This is gonna be the reason. I started telling myself I failed him. And the video that I was saying where I called my shot, it's called Tom Bilyeu Master Plan. And in that video, I caught myself off guard because I got completely emotional explaining why it mattered to me so much to help kids like him. But I had spent 6 months before I recorded that video being like, this is my meaning and purpose. This is why I'm doing it. And I would tell anybody who would listen, and I would embody the emotion that I wanted to feel like I'm doing now, right? This is obviously heightened. If I came up to you in a restaurant and started talking like this, you'd all be like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? But I'm embodying a level of passion. So as I would tell people, yo, I'm building the next Disney so that I can make sure that your zip code does not define your future success. And I think of this kid, right? Okay, now I would keep doing that and I would get that kind of response and then I would get like all evangelical about it. But it was hardwiring in my brain the emotion that I wanted to feel, that I would need to feel over the last 10 months as I've gone through the most grueling experience of my business career. When I'm on my knees and I'm like, this sucks, why am I doing this? I better have a profound answer to that question. And that question is that kid and the millions of other people that are gonna struggle just like that if I can't figure this out. So now it's not about me. Now not quitting is easy because if I'm quitting, I'm not quitting on myself, I'm quitting on them. But you see, that was a process. I had to do it. I had to assign it. And now if you're lucky, you get into one where there is no end. You get to do it until you die.
Beautiful. You up for one more?
I'm game, man. Let's go.
Let's go for one more. Put your hands together for Tom, guys. Maybe we can squeeze a second one out. Let's do a couple intelligent questions here for Tom before we finish up the evening.
Just a quick question. My name is Glenn Ross. You have a very impressive platform. You've been doing it for a while, and you met a lot of people around the world. Who has been your most inspirational person you have interviewed over your course of your career?
It's very easy. There can be only one, David Goggins. Yeah, it's unreal. And when you realize that when you think you're totally broken, shattered as a human, you couldn't possibly take another step, that you're only 40% of the way to your potential, that'll change you real fast. And that's what he taught me.
Awesome.
How you doing? First and foremost, Jerome, thank you for this event. Day one, it's already amazing. So, also Tom, to you. My question to you is, what is the biggest sacrifice you made in your career? Also, how do you feel about the relationship that you broke by going after your dream?
The biggest sacrifice I've made in no uncertain terms is not having kids. So as I always tell people, I really want kids. I could write you poetry that would make you convinced that I have kids. I big brothered for 8.5 years. I know what it's like to be that meaningful and to have that kind of relationship with somebody, to be a part of their life, man. It was beautiful. But I also remember when he would spend 7 minutes recanting a 30-second commercial and I wanted to push him out the window. So that helps keep me sober. But no, that really is the biggest sacrifice. And you can do both, but I knew for me that it wouldn't allow me to enjoy what I'm building as much, and quite frankly, just that you don't miss what you don't have. And I have such an awesome relationship with my wife, and we build the business together. It feels awesome. But I know that when I'm 80, oh God, this could open up a whole nother hour's worth of a conversation. When I'm 80, I will regret not having children. Okay, this is frame of reference. This is why it's so important. I don't think about legacy. I think like a light switch. When I die, that's it. I won't think about anything. Other people think about me, but I certainly won't. So I'm thinking about what's going on right now. But I still do the deathbed exercise because I want to step into that frame of reference and see what can it tell me about today. And when I step into that frame of reference, and let's say my wife has died, and so now I'm alone on my deathbed and I don't have kids, that's gonna be lonely, man. And so in that moment, I need to know that moment is coming for me so that I'm not making a decision now, so that I can contextualize my now, so that when I get there, I'm like, got other things, whether it's mentorship, whether it's reading, creating until the moment I did, whatever, but that I don't get caught off guard. And I don't think people step into these frames of reference enough. My wife talked about this in her book, Radical Confidence. She says, what does an average Wednesday look like? And when she ran through the average Wednesday, because the peak moments are easy, the peak moment of being a parent, oh my God, of course. But the average Wednesday, is that what you want in your life? And of course, look guys, nature played a trick. If you have kids, of course it's the best thing that ever happened to you, obviously. But, and this is true, not to dig at parents at all. I love this about the human mind. But no matter what you do to somebody, a year later, they will say, best thing that ever happened to me. Bro, but you don't have arms and legs. Best thing that ever happened to me. You're blind and deaf. Best thing, man. I wouldn't see it this way. Literally, Stephen Hawking, the man could blink and blow in a straw. I'm not joking. He said, best thing that ever happened to me. So no matter what you do, you're gonna get that frame of reference, right? Just like I'm like, didn't have kids, best thing that ever happened to me, obviously. So, but that is the biggest sacrifice I've made for sure.
All right, Tom, I want to tell you, like, can you leave the audience with one more golden thing that you can give them? But damn.
Of course I can. Obviously, are you ready? We haven't even gotten to the most important thing yet. Life actually does have a reason. So if you're wondering what's the meaning of life, I'm going to give it to you right now. This is not optional. You must do the following if you want to have what we'll call a life well lived. The only thing that matters is fulfillment. Period. End of story. Somebody asked earlier, people get confused. They think happiness is a destination and not an emotion. That was so well said. Fulfillment is the only neurochemical state that is resilient. You can grieve and be fulfilled at the same time. You cannot grieve and be happy at the same time. The good news is that there is a recipe for fulfillment. And it goes like this, and this is the meaning of life. You are going to work really hard, non-negotiable. You're going to work really hard to turn your potential into skill set, and you're going to use that skill set to serve yourself and others. If you do that, my friends, you will have lived your life well. Thank you very much for having me.
Everybody stand up and give a big round of applause for Bill, for Tom Bilyeu. Thanks, brother.